I'm Tim Norton, 2nd District County Commissioner, and welcome to A Word in Edgewise. It's the first of the year. We've got a new commission seated. We've started the hard work of county government. We're going to be looking at a retreat and our budget soon. But today I have a special guest. He's our new 5th District County Commissioner, Jim Howell, and I'd like to welcome him to the commission and to A Word in Edgewise. So, Jim, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me today, Tim.
Not a problem. I don't know that everybody around the county knows who you are. I know the 5th District people do. You were a legislature for some time, in the legislature for some time. So take just a minute, Jim, and kind of introduce yourself. Tell about family, background, much as or little as you want to tell.
Well, I consider myself a lifelong Kansan. I've been in Kansas really since I was a little kid, about 4 years old or so. I moved here from Colorado. We've lived a number of places in Kansas, but mostly in southeast Sedgwick County. I lived in Derby when I was a kid for about 6 or 7 years, and then I moved away. But we stayed in the Wichita area, southeast Sedgwick County, the entire time. I moved back as a married person with my family back in 1998. And I've been there for 14, almost 15 years this time. As you mentioned a minute ago, I was a state legislator for the last 4 years. I was elected in 2010, and I've served in 11, 12, 13, and 14. And, of course, now I'm making the move to the county in this year. So I'm looking forward to serving here as well. As far as my background goes, I've been married for nearly 25 years. I've got 5 kids. My oldest one is 23. I've got 4 boys and a girl. My daughter's the youngest. She is 16. My second oldest just got married about a month ago, and so we're glad to have a new daughter-in-law in our family. In my vocation, I've worked primarily in the aviation world. I was in the Air Force for 5 years before I came back to live here after the military. But in the military, I worked on F-111s. I enjoyed that. And I came back here, worked at Bombardier Learjet for a couple of years, and then Cessna for about 10 years. And then I moved over to Boeing. I was there about 11 years. And then, of course, with Boeing deciding to leave the area, I had opportunities to move with them. Chose not to do that, and I accepted my layoff instead. And that happened about January, about a year ago. And so I took a job with Cessna after the legislative session. Took a job with Cessna, and then I just quit that job a couple weeks ago to come back and do full-time county commission work. So I have a background in aviation, primarily in flight test aviation, which means in my little group, it's called instrumentation. What we do is we create data systems and instrument an aircraft to go out and get data, things like positions of something, or pressures, or strain levels, or whatever. Measure things in some kind of a test, usually a flight test, and then we do data analysis. And so, kind of a customer service role, and more of an engineering world. Really have enjoyed that, and it's been a great experience. But most recently, I've been working on the Scorpion program, which is a great program. If you're not familiar with that, it's certainly something really exciting for the Wichita area.
Well, it's certainly wonderful to have somebody that's got some aviation background. That's been so ingrained in our community for a lot of years, and we struggle with the economics of being a community that's well grounded in aviation, but it's such a big part of our economy and jobs and families that we need somebody that understands it at a deep level. I understood it from the retail side because I had a lot of those families shopping in my store for years, but it does add a kind of a different flair to our understanding of that community in our community. Well, you've been a commissioner for almost 10 days now,
yeah.
So you've had a quick learning curve. You've made it to the first meeting and got through that with all your hair still in place and everything. So that started up. Maybe we should talk about kind of some of your thoughts about what you've seen so far, what you've observed about the county, and maybe some places that you see we need to talk about and go in the future.
I think I'd like to bring a perspective to the table that maybe, you've been in this position for a long time, and maybe you're not able to see it the way that I've seen it, because, again, I'm brand new, and so I have kind of a fresh look at this. But when I became a legislator, one of my first feelings and thoughts was I was overwhelmed at the complexity of state government. And it made me wonder, can you imagine the complexity of federal government? Its magnitudes of order are more complex than state government is. But there's just a lot of budgets, there's a lot of staff, there's a lot of ways to look at things and dissect things, a lot of different ideologies on the table. And but you look at the position coming in, as I started my legislative work, my first takeaway was this is really complex, and there's just so much more to this than I think most people realize in state government. Well, I guess coming into the county, I kind of thought, well, this is going to be smaller than state government, and certainly it is. But I still have the same kind of a feeling coming into it. It seems like there's a lot of people, there's a lot of facets to county government that I think most people probably don't recognize, don't know is there perhaps. And to you, it's easy because you've done this for a long time. For someone coming into this right now, my feeling is this is a very big responsibility, a big role, and a lot of stuff for me to learn. Just the number of agencies to go look at, people to talk to that are in charge of these agencies. They all have staff. They all have budgets. Is a lot to catch up with, and so I'm doing my very best. I've been extremely busy. I've not answered my email as much as I would like, only because I am so busy with my briefings and studying the numbers and things like that. So,
yeah. Well, it was once said all politics is local, and certainly at this grassroots level, the one thing you'll find is you're not insulated from your constituency. You're in the middle of them all the time. When you go out to lunch, you're around your constituency. When you are in church, you're with your constituency. When you're at home in your front yard, you're with your constituency. And they'll see you as that local politician. Sometimes if you're at the next level or even the next level after that, you're not living right in the middle of your constituency all the time. And that does change the dynamic a little bit. Well, we, as always, every year this time, we start to think about where we're going this year, what we're going to look at for the next year, 2016, because real soon we'll start budget deliberations and financial considerations and everything. What do you see there? What have you heard, learned, thought about as we start to move towards that?
Well, I think the county actually is really pretty healthy, and I'd like to just credit the county commission. They've done a good job over the last numbers of years, especially. I know that you had some difficulties in the past. You've had to find ways to make the budgets work, and I would credit you guys have done a really very good job. I have no critical comments at how you got to the point you're at. I mean, the county budgets are healthy. They're doing a lot of really good things. I think that anybody would to look at county government, they would say the county has done very well in so many ways, and so to be very proud of that. And I'd like to commend you for doing a good job in your leadership role on the county as far as that goes. But we should challenge ourselves to do better. I did discover, the county has about $160 million worth of debt, for example. We have discussed, I think, just yesterday we had a lot of policy decisions came up for reconsideration, and looking at some of the decisions that have been made to bring the county to the point we're at right now. Just want to understand a lot of that and find out, do I agree with, or is there anything I would want to change? And so, for example, we looked at the rainy day fund. I was just in my office this morning looking at the rainy day fund and trying to understand exactly how does that fit into all the other budget numbers I'm looking at. Is that the right policy? I love the idea of a rainy day fund, but is there any conditions on how we would use that money? For example, is it the appropriate level? Or we have too much, or is it too little? And so, those are some things that just a lot of little nits to the job of county commissioner that really does require a lot of review and a lot of consideration. Are we doing the things the best way, the right way? Can we do things better? Again, I would say the county is actually very healthy, done a lot of really good things in the past, but to challenge ourselves maybe to be, in my perspective, I like to pay off some of our debt, try to not take on any more debt, manage our infrastructure, our core functions, our public safety, our judicial system, our customer service, amongst our many different county offices that provide customer service for myriads of things that we do in county government. Trying to basically focus on, I guess, the basic parts of county commission, trying to prioritize core functions of government. I just really want to focus mostly on that. One of my personal concerns is I'd like to see the tag office have a lot of advancements in its transition from its current Murdoch office moving forward, and then I'd like to see all the tag offices, frankly, have some technology and staff added so that we have much better customer service in that regard. And of course, we have an elected person who's in charge of those decisions, and so I get to work with her and hopefully maybe I can support her in trying to make the best decisions for the county. A lot of things to learn, a lot of things to look at. Big answer to a very small question. But anyway,
Yeah. Well, another thing that we can talk about, and as our legislator, you worked on JRBR and some
Yes.
changes in correction. The county commission kind of looked at it, and I did too, analyzed that maybe that work product needed to be changed a little bit, that JRBR, at least the location and the facility, was getting pretty tired. Some of the ideas that have come out of Department of Corrections and the Secretary saying maybe these kind of facilities aren't as good as some other evidence-based programs. We're going to have a rich discussion about that this year and try to figure it out. What is good? Do we need to really reopen that facility or figure something else out that'll be good for saving some money and creating a system that works for the young men that are out there? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
well, as you know, Commissioner, I have been a huge fan of Judge Riddell Boys Ranch, and I think that majority of our population and across the county has a very favorable opinion of Judge Riddell Boys Ranch. We love what they try to do. I believe they've been pretty effective in the past, and in fact, they've really set the model for the state to expand that program into many other parts of our state. Unfortunately, the rest of the state has not done it as good. Sedgwick County did it better. What I mean by that is we've invested in programming here in Sedgwick County that really makes a big difference in its ability to provide the outcomes we're looking for. And having said that, the rest of the state has not had the investment on the programming side of the equation. They do a lot more housing, a lot more safety and security, but not so much on the programming side. And as a result, the effectivity of those other programs has been much less. Overall, as a state, I think the feeling is, as a statewide program, it hasn't done as well as they would like it to do. I would continue to argue. I think JRBR is the jewel of the programs that are out there. It's done a good job. Now, can we do things better? Certainly, we ought to be looking at that and have that discussion. And you said a rich discussion. I anticipate we're going to have a very good, rich discussion about how we would go forward from this point forward. Do we have a judicial system that wants this resource to be in place? Do we have a better location to put this, and maybe in a different way to manage the program, for example, or should it be home based, which is one of the arguments I'm hearing from the state level. So, with that, I guess I would just say to you, Commissioner, that I would love to have that rich discussion. I'm going to be looking forward to finding out what is the very best we can find that we can afford, partnering with the state of Kansas, and hopefully we'll have a great program developing one way or the other. So
well, I think the key is to be very honest and open about the conversation, where we want to go. I certainly have, even though I made a decision to close it, I'm willing to look at new facts and certainly work with the state. I'm very interested in what they're going to do, because they have a big part of that, and those folks come through the state process, and we just are a provider. And if they're not going to do their end of it, we need to make the decision with that filter.
I'd like to add to that. Then part of my efforts at the state level was I did spend a couple of years trying to pass solutions to the county. And one of the things we did a couple of years ago was we got a small amount of funding, not really enough to keep it going, but it was $750,000. And that was a good little Band-Aid that extended the life a short time, but it didn't really provide the long-term solution we needed. The long-term solution in my mind has always been we need to, number one, we have more accountability and more performance measures and understanding the effectivity of these programs. And if the ones that are working are doing a good job, we should reward those and make them move forward. And the ones that aren't working, we should rethink them and find better ways to manage those issues. So accountability and performance measures was part of the solution. I was able to get a bill passed last year that the governor did sign. It did a couple of things. Number one, it accomplishes a new cost study. As I'm sure you have said many, many times, the state's not paying enough. It's about $126 a day is what the state's been paying. The actual costs are upwards of about $200 a day. If we run the program the way we'd like to run the program, it's about $200 a day. Well, that's not that gap is a bit of a problem. So I ordered a new cost study, and that is due to out of the legislature actually this week. So I'm looking forward to seeing that new data. And my anticipation is as long as the program would be allowed to start back up again from the state of Kansas, the numbers are certainly going to change. Yeah. It will be something north of 126. I don't know if it's going to be $200, but it'll be something better than 126. I'm pretty confident, at least, of that fact. And well, anyway, having said that, I do believe the program primarily does benefit our own Sedgwick County. And going way, way back in history, this wasn't a state program originally. It was a county-generated program. The county developed it and completely funded it out of our own funds. And so over time it evolved, and the state adopted the program and then started to fund it and then expanded the program across the state of Kansas. And we kind of said, this is now a state program, and therefore came the justification for saying the county shouldn't have to fund it, at the levels we were funding it. And I certainly understand that perspective. I'm not arguing against that in any way. But I do think that the main beneficiary of this program is our own Sedgwick County families, our own Sedgwick County kids, our own population. And so if we have an effective program, even if we have to make the arguments to supplement that in some small way from the county, I guess we'll have that discussion. But
well, and it's interesting you say that. Over my 14 years, I voted many times to put more supplement in, create a cognitive skills learning program, a work program. The horse therapy and some of the other things were already in place, but I voted to increase funding to do some of those things. And I finally said, if we're going to do these, the state needs to step up and help us, because for 7-8 years they hadn't raised their rates at all, and costs have gone up to take care of those young men in a manner that we thought was important. So,
well, I guess I do see this as a generally good news overall. One way or the other, we're going to solve the problem, and we're going to find the best solution, whether that be something like JRBR or reopening that exact location or developing something that's even better. The reality is we've got some opportunities, and I look forward to seeing what those studies will reveal.
We're very fortunate right now that the population is down a lot lower than it has been in the past, and we've got a little time for the flywheel to spin and for us to have those really good conversations. We're faced with the state budget and what they're going to do, and we kind of have to wait till that rat goes through the snake a little bit right now and see what that does. A lot of state decisions affect counties because we deliver a lot of the services. And that's going to put a little pressure on us as we think through our budget and fiscal year 2016. State is going to be important to us. So,
yeah, I know they've got their challenges this year, but I think every year I was up there. We started the session, especially my first year. It was an overwhelming feeling that we're looking at an impossibility. It's just not going to. There's no solution out there that's going to work. And the reality is the legislative process does work. They are able to find priorities, and they are able to do things to make it work out. And so I don't know what the answer is going to be this year. Nobody really knows, and I know there's a lot of concern about how they might balance the books, but ultimately they'll find an answer that is the best choice, or best solution. I do trust the process will find the right answer. And so the reality is that I don't think anything significantly is going to I don't see any cliff changes to any unit of government. I don't think it'd be a cliff change. I think there might be some minor adjustments to each unit of government. So we'll manage it one way or the other.
Well, democracy and being an elected official is messy work. It's just the way it is, and you just have to wait for it all to take place and go through the filter and come out on the other side. Well, Commissioner Howell, it was good having you with me today. I'm going to give you the final word, and then I'll wrap it up. So, final word.
Well, my final word, I guess, would just say it's an honor to be here. And when I say here, I mean to be in this position. It is truly an honor to have the trust of the people to represent them in government. And I take this with a serious regard. It is very important work. And I know that there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this honor. So with that, I don't consider myself a politician. I don't really care for that word too much, but I do consider myself a public servant. And so if I can serve the people in my community across this county and find the best solutions and advocate and fight for what's the best, I would certainly like to do that. And just please communicate with me, email me, call me. Email's jim.howell@sedgwick.gov. Please give me a call. Or email me, let me know how I can serve you. I'd surely like to talk with the people and to get to know everyone as much as I possibly can. So,
well, thanks for being here today. I'm Tim Norton, 2nd District County Commissioner. You've been listening to A Word in Edgewise. we're looking forward to seeing you next time. I'm going to invite Commissioner Howell to come back in about 6 months, and he'll have a little more time under his belt and a few more decisions that he's made to talk about, and more futures. So thanks for coming and visiting with us today. This is A Word in Edgewise. See you next time.